build some of those networks either with other speakers, with other entrepreneurs, with other authors. You're just trying to build some of those relationships that may or may not mean anything at the moment, but may over time. And you're just planting some of those seeds. So how do you start to do that?
Yeah, so what I would do is for most people who are like, oh my God, where do I begin? I don't even know. I would say do this exercise. It's called Layoff Lifelines. The first thing that I would do for people to kick the rust off is make a list of the 10 or 15 or so people that you would contact if your business went under tomorrow or if you got laid off tomorrow. I call it Layoff Lifelines, right? You get laid off. Who are the dozen or so people you'd contact tomorrow to get their advice on what to do next? Usually these are important but dormant ties, right? This is like your old boss, a neighbor that was a successful entrepreneur that you knew growing up, a guidance counselor in college that helped you out a lot, a couple of entrepreneur buddies that you haven't talked to since 2017 when you were last at some conference thing, whatever. Make that list and then reach out to those people now while you don't have an agenda and you don't need anything. Because a lot of the time people are, so this is less awkward because there's no agenda other than reconnecting, but also it gets momentum. It ends the cycle of procrastination because a lot of people are like, oh, I'll do it later. And then they never do, but then they do get laid off or their business hits an iceberg and they're like, oh, now I've got to reach out to people. And that's when you get these super cringe interactions that are like, hey, Grant, what's up? Long time no see. And you're like, oh, hey, Jordan, what's going on? And I'm like, so do you know anyone who's hiring? Oh, okay, this is what this was about. I feel bad for you, son, but nothing comes to mind. Good luck, man. But if I reach out to you now, and you're like, huh, wonder what Jordan wants. And I'm like, how are the kids? How's the family? How's business? Hey, do you know so-and-so had a kid? No, I didn't know. Yeah, you should give him a call. Anyway, nice catching up. Bye. And then I do that again 6 months later. And then I do that again 6 months later. And then in 2 years, I get laid off. And I'm like, Grant, I got laid off. Do you know anyone who's hiring? You're like, oh my God, I want to help my friend. You're not like, oh, he was buttering me up for 2 years to make this ask. Like, that's not how it is. So do it now and kick the rust off and build that momentum. And when people do this, they're often like, oh, it took me 3 weeks to do this, but I finally sucked it up and did it. And then they get like 12 responses of people that are happy to hear from them that they haven't talked to in forever. And they're like, huh, all right, let me make a list of 10 more. And then they're doing it like every week. And then they're reaching out to people all the time. And they're like, oh, this is fun. Everyone's happy to hear from me. I'm not asking anyone for anything. And they're like, oh my God, I haven't thought about this. You don't need to have something that you can get from these people. A lot of times being of value to people is the reward in itself.